Yo, this is my cage. You had your time. You were already a champion. It's my turn to taste the belt. Wagwan fight family. UFC flyweight Ode Osbourne, the Jamaican sensation here. And man, we are breaking down one badass card. When I say this is a badass card, yo, this card is stacked to the brim. The brimmy brim brim. Yo, UFC Fight Night, Adesanya versus Pyfer. We're going to get into some awesome fight analysis and breakdowns. But before I do that, shoot your boy a subscribe if you love the channel and you love authentic breakdowns. When I say authentic breakdowns, I'm giving you real breakdowns, raw, fresh, and organic, like produce. If there's two fighters that I know, I'm going to tell you guys, I'm not going to make a pick on this one, all right? And if there's a fighter that I know and one I don't, I'm going to tell you guys, look, this pick is a biased pick, so that's what I want from you guys. I want y'all to be able to read and receive my analytics authentically, so I want to give you guys the fresh breakdowns, all right? So let's begin. Let's get right up into it, man, because this card is a banger. The first fight of the night, Alexia Thayanara. Yo, I remember watching this girl when she fought Molly McCann. She came in, I believe, on like 3 days' notice. And wow, on 3 days' notice, she performed. And that right there, I was like, wow, she just came out on 3 days' notice and put on one hell of a fight against Molly McCann and actually beat Molly McCann in 3 days' notice, which I was sad about because, I love me some meatball, but it is what it is. Anyways, Alexia Thayanara versus Bruna Bazil. So I actually know Bruna Bazil, so this one's a hard fight for me. I see Bruna all the time at the UFC Performance Institute, but it is what it is. We're going to get into it. It's just business. So Bruna Brazil, she took her, I think her last loss was to Katlyn Souza, which, man, Katlyn Souza is one hell of a fighter. So, Bruna almost is struggling to string some wins together, but she has great striking. Bruna Brazil, if you watch her fight actually against Molly McCann, you see how well she is able to string combinations together. She has great leg kicks. She uses her reach really nice. I think her best weapon is her kicks. And if she wants to beat Thayanara, man, she has to use those kicks and keep her at bay because Thayanara is coming with that heat, man. From the walkout. Yo, Thayanara's walkout is exciting. From the walkout to her fight, it's all exciting. And she's coming off of a great win against Loma Lookboonmee. Lookboonmee is a great Thai fighter. If you watch her fights, that girl is no joke. And the fact that she came in and dusted Lookboonmee like that, yo, this girl is a problem, man. If she does what she did to Lookboonmee and to Bruna Brazil, you better believe that 115-pound division is going to have a terrorizer waiting for them because this girl is a terrorizer. I want Bruna Brazil to win. Again, I'm friends with her. It's bias. I want her to win. I do feel, however, she has a tough fight in front of her. I do feel like that. It's a very tough fight. It's a winnable fight if she fights smart, but it's a tough fight. Moving on, Ricky Simón versus Adrian Yanez. Again, two fighters that I'm great friends with, so I'm not going to give you picks on this fight, but I will tell you keys to victory on how I think each fighter can win. For Ricky Simón, I really feel him getting into the pocket and using his power, his size, wrestling Adrian, getting in Adrian's face and making it dirty. That's Ricky's path to victory. Now for Adrian Yanez, he wants to do the opposite. He has clean striking, man. Adrian has crispy striking. Use that striking at distance. Use some teep kicks. Use your jab. Keep Ricky from using his wrestling and just string combinations together. Ricky definitely wants to use his power. He's the more powerful fighter, in my opinion. I think Adrian's a little bit more cleaner when it comes to stringing combinations together, but Ricky is definitely the power striker here. Moving on, Navajo Sterling versus Bruno Lopez. All right, this one's interesting because when I was going over this, at first I was looking at Navajo Sterling's record, and the fact that he's 8-0 is awesome. He is on a great win streak and looking to face Bruno Lopez. When I was looking at both these guys, I'm going to give a pick on this one. I'm going to make a pick. So my pick for this one is, I feel that Bruno Lopez is going to take it by decision. Here's why. I feel that Bruno Lopez has faced the more challenging fights and he has been tested more. Whereas Navajo Sterling, I feel like, he hasn't been truly tested. The guys he has beaten aren't exactly world beaters, but they're in the UFC. Everyone in the UFC is a tough fighter. But, I don't think they're as tough as Bruno Lopez's opponents. Magomed G, Makil, Sahin Naini, I don't even know how to say that name. And then he looks like he took one loss to Dustin Jacoby. I think that was his only UFC loss. But he beat Magomed G and Kahil Sazhin Naini. I don't know how, I'm probably butchering the hell out of that name. But I do feel like Bruno has faced the tougher opponents. So I'm going to go side with Bruno on this one. All right, let's move on. We have Casey O'Neill versus Gabriela Fernandez. Casey O'Neill, I've trained with here in Las Vegas at Extreme Couture. And one thing I will tell you about Casey, she is always locked in during her training sessions, during, her fights. She's always locked in, and she's a gamer, man. Casey is a dog. She does have a tough opponent. Gabriela Fernandez is a very tough opponent. She is a very clean striker, very, very skilled. So Casey, in order to win, I feel will have to use her distance and use her cardio, because that's one of Casey's biggest assets is she's a cardio machine. She can go from round 1 to round 3 at the same pace. That's one of my favorite qualities about her, as well as her striking. She does have clean, crispy striking as well. This fight's going to be a fun one. And for this fight, I'm going to go with Casey O'Neill for this one. Moving on, we have Marcin Tybura versus Tyrell Fortune. This one I'm not going to break down because I don't know enough about Tyrell Fortune. Like I said, I want to give y'all raw, fresh, and organic breakdowns. If I don't know the fighter, I'm not going to give a breakdown on them. So I don't really know enough about Tyrell Fortune. I definitely have to do some research and watch some film on this guy, because I believe, is this his first UFC fight? Yeah, I believe this is his first UFC bout. Yep, this is his first UFC bout. So I'm interested to see how this fight unfolds, because Tybura is a great fighter. So this guy is 17-3. Is this a fraud check or is he legit? Who knows? We're going to find out on Saturday. All right, moving on. Chase Hooper versus Lance Gibson. This is a fun fight, man, because you have a guy like Chase Hooper who, he's been on a little bit of a run and he's a great grappler. But Chase as well, he hasn't been, he did fight Jordan Levitt. I was going to say he hasn't been tested in his elements, but he did fight Jordan Levitt, and Jordan Levitt is a great grappler. So I take that back. He has been tested in his element because Chase is a phenomenal grappler. And the fact that he submitted Jordan Levitt it says something about him. It says that his grappling is levels above than what you think it is. But Lance Gibson, something about Lance Gibson, his last fight was I want to say 3 to 4 days notice. He took that fight against Bobby Green. He came in on days notice versus Bobby Green. To come in against Bobby Green on days notice and to get a split decision is insane. Bobby Green just KO'd Daniel Zellhuber in Mexico City. So to come in there on days' notice against Bobby Green to get a split decision, I want to see what Lance Gibson is about. I'm trying to see what it's about. So I'm going to roll the dice on this one. I'm going to go Lance Gibson for this one, man, because that's impressive. I'm sorry. That's impressive. All right, let's move on to Ignacio Bahamondes versus Tofik Musayev. Ooh. Ignacio Bahamondes. Wow, man. Every time I watch Ignacio Bahamondes fights, I can't turn away from the TV because he's so exciting to watch. Like, Bahamondes always puts on a show. There's never a boring Bahamondes fight. He might as well be related to Ode Osbourne, you know what I'm saying? But I'm definitely interested to watch this fight, because Tofik, his last fight was to Oroble, which, man, Oroble just beat Chris Curtis by leg hump. That last loss was Oroble probably did the same thing to him. He probably leg humped him for 3 damn rounds, all right? But I'm salty, obviously, because y'all know how I feel about them. Those fighters that all they want to do is just grab you. Not even trying to strike, just trying to grab you for 3 rounds. And that's how I feel about this dude, Oroble, who Chris Curtis just fought. Anyways, Tofik's last loss was to Oroble. So I'm interested to see how he performs against someone like a Bahamondes that is going to stand and strike with him. Because Bahamondes has, man, not only good striking, but he has the cardio. He's able to do in round 1, in round 1, round 2, and round 3, he's able to perform at that same level, that same intensity, and he doesn't seem to fade. So I'm going to go with Bahamondes. Let's see what the reach advantage is. 75-inch reach versus 69-inch reach. Yeah, I'm going with Bahamondes for this one for sure. 6'3 versus 5'9. Bahamondes. 28 versus 36. Bahamondes. What else we got? All right, that's it. Moving on. Bahamondes. Oh, let's go. So now we have Terrence McKinney versus Kyle Nelson. Look, man, I'm not even going to do a breakdown. I'm just going to say Terrence McKinney, first round KO. That's a wrap. We're moving on. That's it. It's either look, Terrence my guy. I love Terrence, man. That's my ninja. Terrence is my ninja. It's either Terrence by KO or Kyle Nelson beats him in the later rounds. That's usually Terrence. That's how Terrence fights. I'm just going to say it. So I'm going to roll the dice again. And I'm going to say Terrence McKinney, first round KO. Let's go, man. Come on with it. Let's go. All right. Now we're moving on to our middleweight bouts. Mansour Abdul Malik. Man, Mansour Abdul Malik is impressive. He will face Yusari Belagori. Am I saying that right? Belgaroy. Yeah, Belgaroy. Look, y'all, don't hate me for butchering these names. I'm a fighter. Look, I ain't an English teacher. I was actually a math teacher. So Mansour Abdul Malik versus Yusari Belgaru. It sounds like a anime character. Belgaru. All right. Anyways, so the thing about Abdul, well, we call him Manny here in Las Vegas. We see him all the time at Extreme Couture. We call him Manny. So it's weird for me to say Mansour Abdul Malik. It's such a tongue twister because I never call him that. So anyways, Mansour Abdul Malik versus Yusari. I'm done. We're going to go right into this. I can't say it. All right, guys. So what's impressive about Mansour is the fact that he has 100% finishing rates. Yo, Mansour has 100% finishing rates. 100% finishing rates. That is insane to me. And it's not just all by knockouts. He got TKOs, he got KOs, and he's got submissions. That is incredible, man. Wow. I'm so psyched about this matchup, guys. I really, really am looking forward to this because Usari is 9-3. He is coming off of a win. I guess it was UFC Fight Night. Let's see, Azamat Bekoev. So he just fought Azamat Bekoev and he beat him. UFC Fight Night, De Ridder versus Allen. I don't remember watching that fight, but yeah, that was his last win. I'm looking forward to this fight, man. I'm sorry. This is a biased pick. This is a very biased pick. But Mansour Abdul Malik is the guy that I feel that will get the job done. Not just in this fight against Usari, but I think Mansour will run through the entire division up until obviously he gets into the top 10. It's gonna, you know what I'm saying? He's gonna face some tougher competitions, but I do feel Mansour is gonna run through this opponent. I'm going Mansour by whatever the hell he wants. Moving on, Julian Erosa versus Larian Douglas. This is a great matchup because you have a guy like Julian Erosa who has been in the UFC for a long time. I think Julian Erosa might be the first fighter who has been released 3 times and made it back and still been able to make a name for himself. Julian Erosa is such a dynamic fighter. And he's fighting Larian Douglas, who's also a dynamic fighter. I watched Larian's Contender Series fight live, and the first thing I thought was, man, this dude can strike. Yo, he's one of Cub Swanson's guys, and we saw Danny Silva last week. So we know Cub Swanson's team. Cub Swanson's been building some straight up killers, man, because the guys that he has put into the octagon that I've seen has been nothing but lights out amazing. I don't know how I'm going to call this, how this fight's going to play out, but I will say Larian has a tough matchup against Julian Erosa because Julian is another fun fighter to watch. Every Julian Erosa fight, man, he's just in there dogging it straight up. I want to say he fought Costa last. Yeah, he fought Costa last, which not a bad loss. You know, he's 3-1 in his last 4 fights. Costa is a phenomenal fighter, man. I think Costa is on like a 5 or 6 fight win streak or something crazy like that. So, not a bad loss. I'm going to go with Julian Erosa for this one. All right, moving on. Our next matchup of the evening. This is Battle of the Senior Citizens. We got Michael Chiesa and Nico Price, 2 of the UFC's oldest veterans. Actually, no, because Nico Price is not that old. Nico Price is only 36. But the fact that him and Chiesa has been into the UFC for so long, it makes them seem super old, even though they're not. Chiesa is 38, but he's been in there for a long time. I remember when I was training with Anthony Pettis and he fought Anthony Pettis, then I was still like 4-2 as a pro fighter. So that tells you how long he's been in there. Now, the question is, how much juice do these 2 fighters have? You know what I'm saying? Because they've been in here for so long and it makes you wonder, is this their last fight? Who knows? In this fight, in this matchup, I don't know who wins this because, you know, Michael Chiesa, obviously, he's a great announcer. He's been on a 3-fight win streak, doing pretty well for himself. I would love to see him get a win and ride off into the sunset. So I'm going to go Chiesa decision. Nico Price as well. I love watching Nico Price because he's one of those guys that, you know, he hits you from the most odd positions. He gets the most awkward KOs. But again, he is on a 3-fight losing streak and he needs this win. So he could pull it off. Nico very well could pull it off because they say a wounded animal is a dangerous animal, and 3-fight win streak, I'm guessing he wants to get one last dub before he rides off into the sunset as well. But in this matchup, I'm going to go with Michael Chiesa. And I think, you know, Chiesa, for Chiesa, I wouldn't mind him using his grappling because Chiesa has underrated grappling. So that's what I think is going to happen. I think Chiesa is going to, strike for a little bit and try to get the fight to the ground. Nico Price, being the younger fighter, should use not just his distance but use his pace and put his pace on Chiesa, because Chiesa is 38 and he's 36. 2 years in MMA years is a big difference. I think the key to victory for Nico Price is use those 2 years and put the pace on Michael Chiesa. Moving on to our co-main event, Alexa Grasso versus Maycee Barber. Yo, this is a fight I think that's been in the works for a long time, man. This has been one of those fights that's been in the, I want to say they've been talking about this fight for at least a year and a half, and I think it was supposed to happen, and then it didn't, or something happened where it fell through. But either way, we're here now. So, you already know Alexa Grasso, great fighter, great hands, great striker, great submissions. She submitted Valentina Shevchenko. That says a lot about Alexa Grasso. Alexa Grasso is a phenomenal fighter. So is Maycee Barber, though. She does have her hands full against the vicious Maycee Barber. And I say the vicious Maycee Barber because Maycee Barber always fights like she has a chip on her shoulder. Like she has something to prove. Every time you see Maycee step into that octagon, she always brings the game. Always bringing it. I think for Alexa Grasso to win, she needs to put the volume on Maycee because Alexa Grasso has such clean combinations. Her boxing is her best attributes. She can beat Maycee Barber if she lets her hands go. If she gets into her head and is thinking too much, the fight will get away from her and Maycee will take the W. For Maycee Barber, I think Maycee needs to get in Alexa's face and make it known like, yo, this is my cage. You had your time. You were already a champion. It's my turn to taste the belt. And I feel that's what is going to happen. And I think, because Alexa was champion for, 2 or 3 years? I don't know. She's already been there. I'm not saying she doesn't want to be a champion again. I'm just saying, for someone like Maycee who hasn't tasted the sweet gold victory yet, I think she's a little bit more hungry. So I'm going to go with Maycee Barber on this one. Because again, I do feel she is just a little bit more hungry and will get the W. All right, now... the unfortunate main event. And I say unfortunate main event because this is not a fight that I wanted to see. Reason why is, one, I love both these guys, man. I love Israel Adesanya and Joe Pyfer. Both of these guys I would consider myself good friends with. Again, I'm not going to give a pick, but I will give my path to victory for both fighters and how I feel that both fighters can and will win. So let's go to Israel Adesanya. So Israel Adesanya obviously is on a 3-fight slide, which I know all too well about. But look at the slides that he's lost to, you know what I'm saying? Look at the guys that Izzy has lost to. Imavov, Duplessis, Sean Strickland, and Pereira. Come on, man. You can't honestly tell me that Israel Adesanya is washed up from that resume. Those guys that he's lost to, everyone except Imavov was a champion. So Israel just needs to be Israel. I think for Adesanya, if he sometimes it looks like he has almost like a mental lapse where he'll look really, really good in round 1, round 2, round 3. And then in round 4 or round 5, he'll have kind of like a mental lapse where, he'll fold a little bit. Maybe he needed that long layoff, because sometimes when you've been a champion for so long, it almost gets, I'm not going to say it gets boring. Being a champion is never boring, but it almost gets, you get used to it, you know what I mean? Because when you're gunning for the belt, you have a different mindset, different gear, a different hunger. And he's eaten so many times. He was on a long reign. He was a champion for a long time. So his path to victory is keep the distance, keep the feints, because he does a great job of using his feints, using his leg kicks, pumping the jab. And if he can remain Israel Adesanya, be the style bender that we all know he could be, he'll get the dub. You know what I mean? As long as he keeps the distance and doesn't let Pyfer get in his face, get in his wheelhouse, and, use his power, because he hit Kevin. I want to say he dropped Kevin Gastelum 3 times in that fight. And again, Gastelum is one of those fighters that he's very hard to knock out. He's very hard to knock out. So you have to put that into consideration. I think in the UFC, I don't know that Gastelum has been finished. Yeah, no. Gastelum has never been finished in the UFC. And so the fact that Joe Pyfer dropped him 3 times, it tells you something about not only his power, but his precision. His key to winning this fight against Izzy is to not let Adesanya be the style bender and use his range, use his feints. Pyfer needs to get in his face, and he needs to get in his face early, land some strikes, because I do feel the one clean strike that Pyfer lands could put Adesanya in trouble, because you've seen it where Adesanya, he gets touched and sometimes he'll crumble. Not when I say crumble, I mean he don't crumble through the fight. I mean he'll literally buckle. You saw it against Sean Strickland. You saw it against Imavov. Again, this is a hard fight for me. I love both of these guys. Both Izzy and Pyfer, both dynamic fighters, both dynamic strikers. This fight, either way, is going to be a fun fight to watch, man. And I, for one, cannot wait to watch this myself. So, guys, that is all for today. Tune in next time for more awesome breakdowns. And if you like these breakdowns, guys, let me know. Shoot me a subscription. And also comment on the breakdown videos and tell me what you guys want to see more of or what you don't want to see more of. Again, I want to make these breakdown videos raw, fresh, and organic, like produce. All right. Well, guys, I think that's all for today. My name is Ode Osborne, the Jomiakan Sensation UFC Flyweight, out.